The member for Memramcook-Tantramar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to rise and speak to this motion. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes en train de débattre une motion d'ajournement. Et c'est seulement nécessaire d'avoir des motions d'ajournement parce qu'on n'a pas un calendrier fixe. C'est un problème, Monsieur le Président. It is an issue that we don't have a fixed calendar, Mr. Speaker. This is something that I know that the leader of the Green Party and member for Fredericton-South has been pushing for since before I was here, to have an actual fixed calendar, like many other jurisdictions across this country have. And this is something that would benefit all members, but more importantly, would benefit their constituents, would benefit the people they're trying to set up meetings with. Can I schedule out a few months? No, not usually. We're given pieces of calendar. We're not really sure what's going to happen, but we could, Mr. Speaker, set a calendar. We could do that. And in fact, there was a committee that met and wrote this report on making the legislature more accessible and more family-friendly. And this was one of the recommendations. And so I'm still waiting. Where did that report go, Mr. Speaker? There were some really good recommendations. And I have to say, that was one of the few times I felt like a committee was doing genuinely, pretty good, pretty nonpartisan work, pretty collaborative work that could change the system, make systemic changes. But what we see is that report after report get put on shelves, and it's unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. So I do think there was some good stuff in there, and this was one of those things. And so why can't New Brunswick catch up with other jurisdictions and actually have a fixed calendar, actually have something predictable, and actually sit more days? Because that's the other thing, Mr. Speaker. We should put that in writing, that we're going to be here consistently for more days than the current trend has us sitting for. Mr. Speaker, we've seen the trend go down. We've seen fewer and fewer sitting days, and it's really unacceptable. What that means is that there's fewer days where we're here in the legislature able to hold government accountable, able to ask questions, able to debate. And as has been mentioned, a lot of the debating happens on this side of the House, so it would be nice to hear from more members over there. And the other thing, Mr. Speaker, in terms of what that would mean, having more sitting days, is not having these ridiculous time allocation motions coming forward to limit debate, because that is what is happening, Mr. Speaker. And it keeps happening. So a year ago, we had time allocation on really important legislation, and we said at the time, we need to take more time to look at this. No, got to rush it all through. They've had to come back on the local government reform legislation several times now. And Mr. Speaker, this happened in the spring, and it's happening again. This is a concerning trend, to limit debate before we've even had a chance to debate certain bills, to shut it down. And what that means is that all of the members are looking at the clock. It stifles debate. It's anti-democratic. It's a concerning trend, not sitting enough to even get the work done, and essentially government seeing the legislature as an obstacle in their path to get their agenda through. But we know we don't even have proportional representation. We know that the representatives on that side of the House have 100% of the power, not 100% of the vote, and obviously they should stand up and speak up. But, Mr. Speaker, what is happening is, as I hear some chirping, and I'd be happy. There's more time for the members to stand up and be recognized by the Speaker when I'm done. But, Mr. Speaker, what we know is that it's stifling debate, and that it is limiting the ability of legislators to do the most important work of legislating, of looking at bills, at examining them, at asking questions in committee, at having time to read the really long bills and actually dig into it. That is really important work, Mr. Speaker, and it is undervalued, and it is concerning. It is concerning to have limited debate, limited time in committee, to have bills rushed through, and these are important bills, Mr. Speaker. And we've even seen I did stand up. I was going to speak to Bill 3 at third reading yesterday. That's been moved to next week. We'll see what happens then. But we have privatization of parts of our healthcare system. We have an attack on workers' rights. We have legislation to address the affordable housing crisis, and it's not doing what it needs to do. We need to actually have time to debate, have time to work on this legislation, Mr. Speaker. And it is frustrating. And at some point, I think we feel like broken records, because this is an unfortunate trend that we've seen, and it weakens our democracy, Mr. Speaker. And so every time we see an adjournment motion, that means that the work has not been done to put in a proper calendar so that we don't even need adjournment motions. And every time we see these time allocation motions, that means that debate has been limited. That has weakened our democracy. And it keeps happening, Mr. Speaker, every time we're here. And so, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak to the adjournment motion. I don't agree with it. We could come back sooner. We could sit longer. We could sit more days. We could be here. We could even sit, do routine business, and do some committee in the afternoon. There's nothing that would stop us. We have done it before, Mr. Speaker. We could have more accountability. We could have a stronger democracy. But that doesn't seem to be the will of government. And so, unfortunately, we see that we're not coming back to sit in the House until March, and that all of the legislation here is just being rushed through and limiting the time of MLAs who are elected to represent the people of New Brunswick, limiting their time to speak and ask questions and debate the legislation that's being pushed through. So thank you again, Mr. Speaker, for the chance to speak to this motion that I cannot support. Thank you.
Deputy